Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Take 5. Today, I'm wanting to talk about something. It's a bit of it's a big subject, so I'm just going to touch on a few things, but I want to talk about common pitfalls in investigations and how to avoid them. And I'm just going to talk about a few of them because, frankly, there are many pitfalls that you can be trapped by. And I think that if we stick to certain basic principles and we have a certain standard in which we conduct our investigations, we can avoid a lot of them. And so the first thing that is critical to any investigation is understanding your mandate. Before we do anything related to any investigation, we know what our mandate is. We know what it is we're investigating. We know the parameters of our authority, why we're there, who we're dealing with. That needs to be understood. And there needs to be a common understanding between you and whoever it is that's putting you in charge of conducting this investigation. Everybody needs to be on the same page. It's very, very important. Next is planning. You have to plan your investigations. You have to sit down and ask yourself, what are the core issues that are being investigated? Now, your plan is not something that you do once at the beginning and leave it, and just follow it all the way through blindly. Plans change. Your investigation plan is a living document. It's going to change as you gather more information, learn of new details, learn of new witnesses, etc. So as you go through the process, your plan will change, but you have to have a plan. You have to figure out, what am I investigating? What are the core questions I need to answer or get answered in order to draw the appropriate conclusions, or for other people to draw the appropriate conclusions related to this case? So your plan is absolutely critical. Documenting. Document everything you do. Document your plan. Document all of your communications. Failing to document communications with people can be something that can come back and catch you at a later date. I remember one time I had a case that I did. It was a regulatory case. I ended up testifying the person in a discipline hearing, and the person that was, the subject of that discipline hearing failed to participate. They failed to participate all the way down the line. And I was so thankful that when I had to go in and present this testimony, that I had documented every single effort I had made, date, time, result, method, of how I attempted to reach out and communicate and engage this person and everyone else involved for that matter. So these are critical things that need to be documented in your file, because you never know when you're going to need them. Another thing that is a big pitfall to investigations is allowing your bias to get in the way of gathering information fairly and effectively, demonstrating appropriate empathy, dealing with individuals in a trauma-informed way. All of these things not only can influence the conclusions you draw at the end of an investigation, but they can also influence the decisions you make during the investigation. Which evidence will I gather? Which questions will I ask? Who will I engage? All of these decision points along the way can be influenced by your own bias. So you have to be on top of that. You have to be recognizing, and that's where a plan comes in, right? That plan is written in an objective way, and that helps as well for you to avoid any bias, because it lays out the things that you need to do and that you need to be sure you've covered in your investigation. So again, a very important thing to avoid is bias, right? That can be that, the death of any investigation can be allowing bias to creep in. Also, communication. Communicate with the parties. I always say to people, there's three kinds of news. There's good news, there's bad news, and there's no news. The worst is no news. People do not want to be sitting around guessing, wondering what's happening. What's the timeline? When will this be finished? How will this proceed? What's the next step? You need to stay in touch with the key people within an investigation and let them know what's going on. They have a right to know what's going on. Whether it's the client who hired you to do the investigation, or your boss if you're working within an organization, the complainant or the respondent, they all need to be aware of what's happening in that investigation, what the timeline is, and how it's going to unfold. So this is also another very important thing to make sure you do, because if you don't, you're falling into a bad place. Finally, learn from your past cases, learn from past practices, learn from others' past practices. Look at the case law, look at cases where people have made mistakes or been criticized for the choices that they made in investigation. And don't let that happen to you. Where a lot of times we'll get set in our ways. This is how I do it. This is how I'm going to do it. I've been doing investigations now for over 30 years, and I still have something to learn every day. I still have the willingness to change my approach, or listen to what somebody else has to say, or learn from my mistakes or someone else's mistakes. And do I make mistakes? Absolutely. I still make them. We all make them. We're human, but we have to learn from them and grow from them. So again, I keep this to a minimum because it is called Take 5, and lately it's been closer to Take 10. So I'm going to stop there. But just remember some of these common pitfalls in your investigations and take every step you can to try and avoid them. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Take 5.